All right, you love barracudas. I'm back. Let's see if this goes right. So yesterday, I put out that short. I did a complete full video yesterday. Um, Today, by the way, is Monday, the 16th of March. Do I have that right? Yeah. Okay. I did a full video yesterday, and I had paused the camera and to actually do something and but didn't pause it when I thought I paused it, right? So, long story short, I said, okay, I'll go into the editing software, which to let me just say, extremely don't know how to use. Okay, I'm fumbling at best with it. Okay, so I go in there, got the whole video in there, and whatever I did, I cut out too much and then tried to fix that and then ended up cutting more and tried to bring it back and I couldn't, and it was just a mess, a true mess. Okay, so um, I ended up losing a large swath of the video. However, and that's Mercury shenanigans stuff, right? That kind of stuff is very common with Mercury. But I realized that in that video, I said a lot of stuff about this war. And it came to me last night, was given to me last night, that maybe I didn't need to say some of the things that I said. So we're starting with a fresh, clean slate today. I did save, however, I managed to save the last part of the video. Um, and so I'm going to insert that in here, okay? Um, and I put on the same shirt so that people wouldn't get confused, all right? Um, but the last part of the video, I believe, was very important, and that was the only part that I was able to save. So they let me save that for a reason, but took out everything else, okay? So thanks for your patience. Appreciate it. Um, but that's kind of what happened yesterday. So I wanted to start off with a couple recaps, okay? Because there's kind of some important things that went on. Um, by the way, I don't watch the what was on last night, the Oscars or the Emmys, whatever. I don't ever watch award shows. I've never been into the whole celebrity thing. But I did catch clips of um, some people speaking last night. And I want to say that kudos to a couple of those that spoke truth to power about this administration, about what's going on, um, etc. It does take courage to get up on a worldwide stage and do and say some of the things that need to be said, especially given this administration and their propensity to get revenge, right? And already Don the Khan is calling for, um, you know, he may cancel the Oscars and this kind of thing, and make the Oscars great again. Is he kidding? That's what makes them great. That makes them great. So kudos to all those who spoke out, used their voice and that huge platform to say stuff that needed to be said, um, against what's wrong and stuff that's going on now. All right, so wanted to get that in there. Um, All right. So I've been telling you guys that the SAVE Act won't be saved. And even though it went through the House with some tweaks in it, and it passed the House again and then back to the Senate. And of course, Thune was like, I'm not getting rid of the filibuster to pass it because they need 60 votes to pass it. All right. And they don't have it. And for a while there, Fetterman had signed on and said, yeah, I'm going to vote for it. Well, he reversed course and said, no, I've read it. I'm not gonna support it. And Lisa Murkowski, another Republican, I called her another Republican. Fetterman's supposed to be a Democrat, but he's really always been a closet Republican. Okay, um, so to those who are wondering, did his illness or his stroke cause this? No, he's always been that way. His true self is just coming out. But Lisa Murkowski um, is saying that she's also a firm no on it. So it's literally dead. There's nothing. It couldn't. It can't be. Um, it can't be saved. Okay, like my wonderful companions told me. Um, Also, I told you guys at the beginning of this conflict, uh, which is really a war. Iran had many tricks up their sleeve. Okay, and I stress that to you guys. They have many, many tricks up their sleeve. Some of their tactics are almost brilliant. Okay, they are not totally bloodlust. Okay, they are not um, the bloodlusty people, the Iranians, as Disrael portrays them to be. The leaders of Disrael have proven to be much more bloodthirsty than anyone. Okay, but anyway, Iran is very much um, in this for the long haul. Okay, and they have chess. They're playing chess. The United States and Israel are playing checkers. Okay. Um, Now let's be clear. I do not agree with how Iran treats its citizens and especially their women. Okay. Any leadership, no matter who or what it is, that forces you to dress a certain way, to think a certain way, goes against spiritual law. Okay, goes against the grain of the universe, and eventually must fall away. However, um, there's a lot of good people in that country, and they have a lot of good potential. Okay, and this is part of the reason why all of this is happening now, um, to help their people be free. But anyway, their strategy is not only they are just they've taken Israel and many other countries by surprise, but they have an all around strategy. It's just not completely bloodlust, right? So they put a hit list of billionaire owned companies that support Israel to attack to um, attack with cyber attacks. Okay, so this list, they are going after major companies. Okay, and Amazon, Google, etc. The larger companies they're going after, um, and they've already gotten one. Stryker, the medical um, company, huge company, worldwide company, they were already hit with a cyber attack. Okay, took them down. And I believe that parts of their network are still down. If you're interested, you can always Google that. But they've started already with hitting these. And there will be more attacks like this. Okay. Now, do you remember me telling you about targeted attacks? Okay. It is not going to be major type of boom bombers in the United States attacks. Okay, they're going to be targeted attacks. I told you guys too in the last video. Please don't ask me specifically where. Okay, because they're going to be widespread throughout the United States. And of course, a couple of you were like, well, is it going to be California? Is it going to be this place? Okay. California will receive a targeted attacks, but it will not be on a grand scale. But California and just about all of the states will receive some type of targeted attack. Okay? I'm not, if you ask me, is my state or my city, I'm just going to ignore that, move on to the next comment. And you know, I read everyone. I'm just going to ignore it and not respond because I've noticed that um, a lot of times, you know, people get so, um, you know, you go into like, I don't know, you got to know mode and then you don't listen. Okay. Yes, there's going to be attacks just about in all of the 50 states, okay, throughout, but they're going to be targeted, okay, not blanket, targeted attacks. Uh, my city, okay, is going to be targeted. All right. I'm not, I have no fear about it. It's just the way this is how it's got to play out. Now, if you've already noticed, we've already had two targeted attacks. Okay, one in Michigan, the other in Virginia. Okay, targeted attacks, and one of those attacks, the guy who initiated the attack lost 4 or 5 relatives in the strikes over in the Middle East. Okay, is what he did wrong here? Absolutely, absolutely. Fire with fire only creates karma, right? But we can understand the sentiment behind his feelings and his emotions. Okay, we can certainly understand. Just like he feels that, you know, you may say, well, yeah, but he attacked innocent people, right? Well, his family over there were innocent people. So, you know, but yes, we are going to experience targeted attacks, and a lot of them will be upcoming um, outages, not only power, but internet outages. Okay. Um, I also see something that I've heard no one mention anywhere, but I see attacks on some of these AI centers, these data centers. That came to me very strongly. There's going to be some targeted attacks on some of these AI centers. Okay? But there will not, repeat, not be the large scale obliterating a whole city type attacks. No. No, no, no. I don't see it, and they have not given that to me. They keep saying to me targeted. There's a method to the madness of those leaders um, in Iran and their war strategy. There's definitely a method to that madness, and war is madness, right? Okay. Um, Also, I see the United States desperately wanting to back out. I don't listen to what Don the Con says. And please, whatever you do, don't listen to the unhinged Lindsey Graham. Okay, ooh, I don't know where he's coming from. But as a whole, the United States government, they want out. They want out of this. It has, like I told you guys in the very beginning, it spiraled out of control. It's not going to be what they thought, and it's not what they thought. Um, and it's just a complete mess, okay? It's a complete mess by our eyes, right? But knowing what I know about how divine order moves, okay, every strike, every bomb, every action taken during this conflict um, is actually serving its purpose. It's serving its purpose. Okay. Um, and on the other side of this, things will be very, very different. Very different. Okay. Um, and that recession that I've been warning you guys about, believe it or not, and I believe I told you this before, the uber rich, the billionaires will hurt more than us average folk. Okay? And that is one of the purposes of this, one of the divine purposes of this conflict. All right? Um, Also, questions about the leader of Israel. I have not been given the confirmation that he's no longer with us. So I believe that he is still with us, but I know for a fact that somehow he was injured. Um, and his time is not up yet. I'll just say that. But remember, I've been telling you guys he will come to a very um, violent end to his life, and he will be out of office this year. And not only that, he needs to watch his inner circle. There are people there that are not very happy with him. Also, the current new leader of Iran, remember I told you it's going to be a quick flip in and out. So there'll be a third person that'll be in charge. And I still see that. I don't see this guy staying in power. The one that they just appointed, the son. Okay. Um, and one more thing. Um, Chuck Grassley came. He came to me very strongly. Um, I don't know whether it's going to be because of his health or something to do with that or something he does. But it just seems like they're put my attention on Chuck Grassley. So just kind of watch out for whatever something regarding him. Um, let's see here. Vermont. ICE decided they wanted to descend on Vermont and they're catching hell. they are catching hell. They are being met with huge crowds wherever they go. And these people are a little bit more feisty than uh, some of those in Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota was, for the most part, relatively, they were peaceful. They were there, they were strong, they were, courageous, but they were relatively pretty calm compared to some of these folks in Vermont. Who'd have thought, right? Um, they're not playing. Please look that up. They're um, these people are not happy that they're they're there. There was an immigration raid in South Burlington, and it turned into a massive standoff between the residents and the ICE agents. It seemed like within like just a very short period of time, like hundreds of people showed up in a surrounding one house. One house. Okay? So the officers used tear gas, and flash grenades towards some of them. But um, Vermont isn't playing. So Vermont, we support you, and your bravery, your courage. Now, something else I wanted to add to, and this is something that I've seen for a very long time. This is going to get more and more confrontational between normal citizens and ICE. Okay, and it's I've been saying for a while it's going to get ugly, and the people are not going to be playing. Okay. Um, and here's the thing, it's triggering a lot of former MAGA people, right? For some reason, a lot of them, that was their red line. That was their line, and they're, because subconsciously it goes against, they're all my rights and you know, my border, my boundaries type thing, and it triggers something in them, and they have a tendency to be a tad bit more actionable. I wanted to say violent, but actionable is probably the better word. They have a tendency to be much more actionable in their anger. All right, and they're going to be showing up and showing out. Okay, and that is what is needed. Some people are propelled to act. You know, a lot of times people think, spirituality is all about peace and love. Well, yes, it is, but how it manifests sometimes is not always peaceful ways. Divine love will use and propel us to do things in many different ways. And I've told you guys hundreds of times, right? Um, what's better? If I'm getting ready to walk off that cliff and I don't see it, and if I say peacefully and lovingly, Vena, be careful, the cliff is coming. Well, nothing's going to happen. So somebody's got to scream, Vena, watch out, right? That's going to get my attention. I'm going to hear that. And so divine love's going to act whatever way it needs to act, do whatever it needs to do in whichever way it needs to get our attention or to have us get something that we need to get. Okay? And it doesn't always come in the ways that we expect. It just doesn't. So, for those that are propelled to act and boisterously, now it's always the intentions behind how you're acting, right? Are you acting just to be, violent, or to be mean, or to be nasty, or to be, you've got bloodlust in you, well, that's no, that's not good. But the intention behind it, if you're doing it righteously, if you're doing it because it's the right thing to do, that's a different thing. It's always the intentions, not necessarily the act. Okay? All right? Um, and so let's not, mix up, how is divine love there, when things are getting ugly. It can't be there. Yes, sometimes it's things do have to get ugly. Divine love is never in a vacuum. It's never not there. Okay, it just puts on different faces at when it needs to. All right. Um, let's see. The 5,000 Marines, the number's going from 2,500 to 5,000. I don't even think this administration knows how many it's going to send, okay? Because we heard uh, the Dumbo commander in chief say one number and then Hexet said another number, and there were two totally different numbers. So we'll just say 2,500 to 5,000. But that's so not going to go the way they think either. Um, they will get quashed. They will be very much outnumbered. We're not going to get really any support. And sending them there is just going to be a waste, which they will kind of figure out hopefully sooner than later. Um, I wanted to also tell people about shortages. I already warned you guys at the beginning of this, keep your gas tank filled. And I also want to add something else. If you can go buy locks for your gas tank, because it's going to get to the point I see people going to go around stealing gas. I just do that. That image came across me. Um, so I'm going to put that out there. Just, you know, especially if you live in a city, right? Just buy one of those lock-in gas tanks where it's not easy for someone to steal your gas. But we are going to have some shortages. Things are going to get very tight, very ugly for a minute. And, this is going to bring us to, what do we truly appreciate? Okay. And I know so far I sound like a lot of doom and gloom stuff, but in reality, it is just preparation for events that are unfolding. And as we've gotten through other things before, right, we will get through this. And we will. When COVID started, right? I mean, who didn't think that was the end of the world? And look, we're here. We got through that. Okay? And there's been many, many things throughout history, throughout the years, but they all are in the progressive, unfolding path that we need to be on. Okay? Things can't change if things don't change. Right? Things don't change, they can't change. All right? So, there was a person who, so cute, and, let's just talk about her for a second, okay? God bless her. She literally commented that she has very bad road rage and basically what to do about it. Does she know who she's talking to? Seriously. I mean, that's like asking, Manson for advice on how not to kill, right? I mean, bless her heart, too cute. Um, I am the wrong person to ask about road rage, but I can, in all seriousness, tell you it is one of those tests that we're given all the time by our loving companions. They throw situations at us to test us to see how we're going to react, um, and so that we can see how we're going to react. Okay, I fail daily. Very rarely do I pass the road rage test. Very rarely. Okay, but like I said, it's a test. So if that helps you knowing that it's a test, wonderful. Um, it does help me sometimes. I've got I describe in the first my first book on the actual near death experience, um, how when I was driving in Italy, when I was on the bus in Italy, and I was in spirit form at this point, and Italians drive like maniacs. I mean, pure maniacs. And and I hate to be so general, but it's the God's honest truth. They're just nuts. But I could see, um, in spiritual form, I could see those streams of energy coming off the drivers, and some of those energies were cut short, which meant that some type of they were going to have some type of accident, or they were just going to stop driving, or whatever. The streams that was around the cars and ahead of the cars and behind the cars. It's fascinating, but some of those streams were like really straggly type energy that was chaotic, and you could tell that they were like enraged driving, just driving with serious anger, right? And so every now and then I think about that when I'm driving, and it does pull me back. It really does. But I got to be honest with you, okay? And work with me here, because a lot of you have said, well, I'm like a really calm driver. And you're probably one of those people that blow me all the time. Um, but okay, the people that are at the left arrow, right? And when it turns green, and you still sit there, okay? That green arrow only lasts like 3, 4 seconds. Go! Don't sit there. Go! And the ones that wait until it's getting ready to turn back to red and then shoot out, so they're the only ones that can go. Honestly, like, though, if I was a cop, whatever the max ticket amount I could give would be to those people. Would be to those people, those left arrow turners that are just selfish, disgustingly selfish. Okay, and the double parkers, the ones who won't pull into a spot but will just block the whole street parking. And some of those I don't think know how to park. Okay, so it's just easier for them just to block the whole street. And then some of them are just flat out thoughtless and selfish. Okay, so I really should have been a cop. I should have been. You know, my life has truly been wasted. Okay, because I would go around. They would be calling me about robberies and this and that, and I would be like ignoring all those calls. I would just get the drivers or the ones that are so slow and you can't pass them. Anyway, okay, sorry about that. So, sweetheart, do you see why I'm the wrong person to ask? I'm still on my learning journey with road rage, okay? But like I said, um, knowing that it is truly a test, one of many that are thrown at us, not just for driving, but you know, you see someone drops some money. Do you pick it up and keep it, or do you give it to them? That is such. That's one of the major integrity tests that's done. Someone's at the ATM and they walk off. They get their cash. They walk off, and they forget their card. Do you take their card or do you run after them and give it to them? These are the type of tests that we get constantly. Okay? So, um, hope that helps. Um, One thing I wanted to mention before I add the spiritual part yesterday, because that was, to me, it was a very good one. Um, Brandy Carlisle. I don't know of her, but apparently she's, quite famous to some people. She raised almost $1 million for immigrant legal aid for Minnesotans. Okay, so if you don't know, Don the Con cut the funding that immigrants had, to for legal aid, right? Um, and so it's been either immigrants who've gotten lawyers. The lawyers either do it pro bono, or the immigrants have to try to scrape up the money to pay. Okay, and this Brandy Carlisle used her digital platform, streaming platform, to raise this money and donated it all for this legal fund. And I just thought that was just such an important, loving act to do. So, wanted to mention that because we love a good deeds done like that, right? And a lot of people do good deeds and we don't even hear about it. But the ones that we hear, let's go ahead and give them their props. Um, okay, so I guess I talked a lot. Then I'm going to add the other part to this. I hope I can do that correctly. But thanks for tuning in, guys. In the other part, I did not sign off correctly. I wiped that out. But so don't worry, because this is going to go right into it for the spiritual part for those of you that want that part. I just left it because it was such a good one, and I was in a total almost trance at some point um, when stuff was coming through. I don't even remember. I actually had to go back and play some of it just to hear the stuff I was saying, okay? So it's going to come on right after this. But thanks for checking in with me, guys. All right. These are the times, right, when, we have to pull on our inner foundation and our inner knowing of what we know about life, whether we know a lot or a little or whatever it is. We have to pull on our inner knowing of things. First and foremost, we have to remember, right, that even though this is very real for us, right? And very, it's very present for us. We have to realize that we are here playing out a play. Okay? Earth is a play, Earth is a school. Okay? And the main objective of us being here, right, is to put into practice those things that we know on another level, but that we come here with that veil, that forgetting. We come here with that forgetting, and life is a continuous remembering, learning to remember and put into practice those things that we know, okay? Drawing on those instinctive things, right? That kindness, that love, that divine love that exists always, all the time, okay? And part of our reason for being here is we have our own individual agendas we've got to fulfill. Okay. We're not here just to, you know, participate in world stuff. We're here to fulfill our individual agendas. And in fulfilling those agendas is that remembering of our of certain things that whisper to us throughout our day, throughout our lives, right? There's certain things that come up for us. Some, in a certain situation, it may say, hey, don't do that anymore like that. Do it this way. Or try to do things in another way or a better way. Or try to implement this quality in your life. Or don't continue doing this. Do this instead, right? There's gazillions of different things that hit each and every one of us throughout our day, throughout our lives, right? And that remembering is part of the reason why we are here. Okay? But the deep inner knowing that divine love exists flows always and will appear in our lives in the way we need to see it. Is very, very important. That flow, that energy of love is always, always there. It's always pulsing. And I just can't say that enough. We are certainly here to participate in the world. We're here to participate, you know, outwardly, but we must learn to live from within. And knowing that situations will appear for whatever reason they appear as part of a divine order. If you can accept that, and if you can start to live by that, your happiness and your peace of mind won't be dependent upon stuff that happens outwardly. Okay? Your happiness and peace of mind will stay with you, will always be there. And then it will start to unfold in ways in your outer life more regularly. There's not going to ever be a perfect, um, completely harmonious existence here, right? Because this is not the place for that. However, you can have a peace of mind and a sense of happiness while dealing with those outwardly chaotic things if you live and come from that inner knowing that withinness, if you can just hold to one thing, that no matter what appears to you in either your life or what you become aware of or what you see, is divine love somehow unfolding in the way it needs to appear to either help us learn or to help us grow. That is where your peace of mind will come in. Divine love doesn't come in, go out, come in, go out, appear here, appear there. It is a constant force. It is what animates all of existence, all levels of existence. And remember, just because we see a portion, a teeny portion, should I get my spear? Just because we see a teeny portion of it at times, okay, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's always there. And yes, things are going to appear haphazard at times on this level, chaotic, discordant, and whatever. But they are, remember, those things that appear are still props in this play because there is an overall, what's the word I'm looking for? There's an overall theme to this play. Each of us has an overall theme in our play of life, and there's a worldly overall theme. I fully understand now that I didn't have my near death experience just to, um, have it and, uh, you know, relish it and keep it to myself. I fully understand that now. I thought that it was just like, a once in a lifetime thing. And, I kept it inside for decades, right? And didn't speak of it to not one human being on this earth did I speak of it to. Until one day, it just, after I had truly processed the experience and lived through certain things, just live, right? And use that information that I garnered from the other side, that I saw on the other side. Only then did I realize it's not a secret. And it wasn't meant to be a secret. And it wasn't meant to be something that should have been tucked in. And I have to put as much of it out there as I can before I'm not able to anymore, or before I leave here. Um, I've got to put as much of it as I can, because most people don't understand there is no such thing as bad luck. There's no such thing as we just come here, live, die, and that's it. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that we're taught. Um, you know, the the truth about existence and life is so simple and so profound. It's just so overlooked. And we are not just simple pawns. Like, we're not just, little pawns, or, random people that just, no. There is a force of love, that there's a fabric of love that holds all of existence together. Not only existence here on earth, but throughout all creation, all parts of the universe, all parts of the endless galaxies that are seen and not seen. So, I thought I just saw a little ball of light, but maybe I didn't. But anyway, so I want to share that. I wanted to share that, and keep sharing it, because a lot of times people say, well, what's the purpose of life? Like, what are we here for? Like, what is this? Right? It is a remembrance of who we truly are and those divine qualities, and putting them into concrete practice here. Here. And that those two words spoken to me by my spiritual companion when I was asking, well, what do I do? Like, I was shown all this stuff. Like, what do I do? How do I live? Like, what do I do? And the two words, just live. So simple, yet so profound. Two of the most profound words ever. Just live. Because in living, we put those things into practice. Each of you, just by living, has a purpose, a divine purpose, whether you realize it or not. Even that so-called person you're calling a bum on the street actually is living a divine purpose. They may be living that life as a so-called bum to experience certain things that they normally wouldn't experience, or to propel people to show kindness, empathy, compassion. And that person is living as that so-called bum to propel those things in people, possibly, or to live in a certain degraded way to experience an understanding of others who may live that way, right? They may need that understanding. Each and every person is living some type of divine purpose. We may not understand what it is, but it's there and it's true. All right. So, anyway, just wanted to share that. Thanks for hanging in with me, guys, and remember those that Mars square Uranus is still kind of in effect. We also are still under the Mercury retrograde until at least the 20th. So don't look for things to go totally smooth until after that. Look at what's has happened with all the airport stuff. Oh, all the people on spring break trying to get home and get back, and oh, it's like a nightmare. Whew. Anyway, yeah, we've still got that energy, and we're living through it. We're gonna practice some things that we know.